launch of the guidance on how civil society can support the implementation of General Comments number 26 from the Committee on the Rights of the Child on Children's Rights and the Environment. My name is Letícia Carvalho. I'm a lawyer and international advocacy coordinator at Alana Institute, a Brazilian-based organization, and I'm very happy to be moderating this webinar, and I would like to thank How to Child Rights Series for this invitation. Just before we start, I want to ensure everyone can understand what I'm saying. So I want to bring your attention to the fact that I will speak in English, but there is simultaneous interpretation available in French, in Spanish, and also in Portuguese. So please check the instructions in the chat box, and you see a globe on the screen where you can choose your preferred language. Just to let you know, earlier today we had a session in Arabic and in English also, and we'll share the recordings with you afterwards. And I hope now you can hear what I am saying in your preferred language. So I think I am having some trouble with connections here. I'm not sure if you all can hear me. Could you just confirm?
Yes, very well.
You can hear me well?
Yes.
I think I lost you, but I'm trying to get back. I'm sorry.
We hear you very well, Letícia.
You hear me very well?
Yes.
Okay, so then, okay, so please share your name and also your organization and where you speak from, so we can have a sense of who is here with us for today's launch. And as we already shared, and as you may know, we are here together to launch this guidance on how civil society organizations can support the General Comment 26. And as you know, the triple planetary crisis is a children's rights crisis. So the climate emergency, the biodiversity loss, and the pervasive pollution put at risk a number of children and their rights, and challenge also the implementation of the 35-year-old Convention on the Rights of the Child. So the General Comment 26 was developed by the Committee on the Rights of the Child with input from thousands of children worldwide to clarify how states' obligation under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So the General Comment 26 is an authoritative guidance, and it can be used to catalyze legislative change and strengthen children's participation in environmental decision making. So the aim of this session is to introduce useful tools for the implementation of the General Comment 26, to highlight how General Comment 26 is already being relied on and can be further used by civil society organizations to advance children's rights, and to share, of course, stories and exchange experiences and hopefully spark new collaborations. Finally, it is significant that today, 9th September, coincides with the International Day of Education Under Attack and the Africa Climate Summit, and also just a few months before COP30 here in Brazil, where I'm based. So underscore the timeliness of this conversation. So if you have questions, during the webinar, we kindly ask you to use the Q&A, the questions and answers box dedicated to this that you can see on your screen. If you are an adult, please connect your camera when speaking. Otherwise, please stay on mute and turn off the camera. If you are a child, you feel free to choose if you want your camera on or not when speaking. Please note that this session is recorded and the recording will be saved on How to Child Rights Series webpage and shared with participants afterwards, along with other resources that we are gonna mention today. So since, of course, we want this webinar to be a safe and inclusive space for everyone, and especially for children joining us today, I want to remind everyone of some of our safeguarding considerations. So we encourage all speakers and participants to use non-technical language, and part of the beauty of this gathering is that we have people from many different parts of the world. So listening with respect is a prerequisite for a fruitful conversation. And we also remind you that it's our shared responsibility to keep children free from any harm in this session, and any safeguarding concerns can be directed to Susanna Rutai from Child Rights Connect, who is the child safeguarding focal point. Her email address will be pasted in the chat box. So again, welcome everyone, especially those who have just joined us. And a special welcome to children, including child-led organizations and grouping joining us today. This launch is organized as part of the How to Child Rights series by Child Rights Connect Working Group on Child Rights and the Environment, the Children's Environmental Rights Initiative, Terre des Hommes, and Save the Children, with the support of CIDA-funded Civil Society Strength Program. I will now announce the agenda and kindly ask our panelists to turn on their videos when I mention your name. So on the agenda today, we'll hear some words of welcome from Mikiko Otani, President of Child Rights Connect and Global Lead for the How to Child Rights series. She's also a former chairperson of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. We'll have Mentimeter questions to get to know a little bit more of you, of our participants. And then we'll hear some reflections from Professor Benyam Mezmur, member of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, who will also explain to us how the committee uses General Comment 26 in its dialogue with states. A presentation, we also have a presentation of the General Comment 26 guidance and a larger toolkit on General Comment by Constanza Martinez from Save the Children and co-author of this guidance. Then we'll have a presentation of child-friendly tools to support implementation of General Comment 26 by Child Rights Connect's Children's Advisory Team member, Dulce from Ecuador. And we will then open the floor to reflections and experience sharing from you and from our participants. And we'll ask Loukou, Aimé from Côte d'Ivoire, Isabelle from CRIN, and Julia, representing Children and Climate Coalition from Brazil, to kick off this session. So now, welcome everyone again. We will hand over to Mikiko Otani, President of Child Rights Connect and lead for the How to Child Rights series, to say a few words about the series. Mikiko, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Letícia. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us today. Benyam Mezmur, a member and former chair of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, and speakers from the civil society, Children's Advisory Team, dear colleagues, friends, children, and young people. Thank you for joining us in this very important webinar today. The webinar is for launch of the General Comment number 26, Guidance for Civil Society, the topic is crucially important. How can civil society, children and youth support the implementation of the GC26 to advance children's rights to a healthy environment? But today's webinar is also significant, as this is the first How to Child Rights series webinar, since the Child Rights Connect became the host for the How to Child series in May this year, 2025. For those who are yet to be familiar with the How to Child Rights series, let me introduce you a little bit about this series. How to Child Rights series is a platform that facilitates co-creation and peer learning on children's rights in practice. It offers a series of practical, high-quality, tried and tested tools, guidance, and case studies and peer exchanges to support effective and innovative programming, including advocacy for children's rights across the civil society sector, for children's sectors, of course, but for other sectors, such as I hope today we have many participants from the environmental movement sectors, but also, for example, the humanitarian sector and wider human rights sector, in close collaboration with other actors, as I said, including academia. And also, the collaboration with the Committee on the Rights of the Child is also very important. So we are very thankful for the presence of Benyam today. So initiated by the Save the Children in 2022, it is developed in close collaboration with a broad range of trusted partners to support all practitioners within the sector across organizational, geographic, and language barriers. So we are pleased to host organize this seminar in 5 languages with the translation and in 2 sessions, considering of the time differences. So those who not yet part of child rights, How to Child Rights series community, I would like to encourage all of you to support and engage with How to Child Rights series. More information will be found in the dedicated page for the series in the Child Rights Connect website. So the topic of today's webinar, launch of General Comment 26 guidance for civil society, is a perfect one for the How to Child Rights series. And I'm so pleased to be part of the webinar as a president of Child Rights Connect and global lead How to Child series, How to Child Rights, and also as a former member of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, who was a part of the drafting process of the GC26. As you may all know, the General Comment 26 is a result of the strong request and support from children and civil society of all over the world to advance children's rights to environment over 2 years collaborations to be used effectively by civil society, children, and youth. A practical tool such as this guidance is critical. I deeply appreciate the hard and dedicated work of each one of you who contributed to developing this guidance. I'm so excited to learn about the guidance and the experience of the civil society colleagues, and on the top of that, from children today. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mikiko, for sharing with us this important initiative, the How to Child Rights series, and of course, your personal background as former chairperson and UN committee member. Thank you very much. And now over to Laura, because we want to know a little bit more who are with us today.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Laura from Save the Children, and I work also with the How to Child Rights series. I wanted to see who's here today, so I would want to ask you to see if you can scan this QR code, or if you can also see the link in the chat. My colleagues will put a link for you to see if you can join this one. I see some people are joining, so that's good. So just waiting maybe a few seconds. Yeah, which country are you joining us from? Canada is big. That's great to see. I see a lot of European country representatives here, but also Canada, US, Spain, Lithuania, Eswatini, Bolivia. Great. I see Brazil and Jordan and Mali. Wonderful. I see that we have 46 persons replying. I think we have Argentina. Here we go. We see a lot more from that continent. So I'm thinking this is amazing to see all this diverse group. Zimbabwe, Egypt, welcome all, and really, really wonderful to have you here. The second question for you is, what is your main area of work, if we can simplify? Is it more environment, climate change? Is it more children's rights, human rights, other issues? And if you focus on other issues, please write in the chat box so we know who are the people who were attracted by this webinar. I see children's rights is the winner here, which is not natural because it's about a general comment of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, and you are the ones who get this kind of information first about this kind of webinars. Wonderful, and welcome all. I see some environmental organizations and some human rights, some other. Welcome all. Please write if you do other things, you work on other things, what are you working on, so we know, a bit more who our audience is today. The next question is more to self-evaluate a bit. There's two questions. This first one is about how would you rate your current level of understanding of the general comment 26? Is it perfect understanding? You know it very well, you've worked with it. Is it high? Is it medium, basic, or low understanding? I see there is a tendency for basic and low, which actually gives us also good reason to think this guidance will be also very useful. Maybe you won't get all your answers today, but you will know more today, and you will feel that you will know where to find information about it even more. So thank you for responding to this. And the next question is more about how would you rate your current understanding of how to support implementation of General Comment 26? So not just knowing about it, but do you also know what kind of activities you can do to support implementation? Do you feel you have this kind of ideas? Some of you may already have done a lot, some of you not. So, and I see that most of the answers are coming in, and it's from medium to basic, low understanding. Okay, so this gives us a good reason to think that this webinar will be very useful for you. I really hope so. And from there, I will give you the floor, Letícia, again. And if we have time, we can evaluate again at the end of the session, if we have time. So hopefully, thank you so much. I see many people have engaged. And if you were not able to engage in Menti and you feel like saying what you think of this, please use the chat box and we will see it. Letícia, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Laura. It's incredible to know a little bit more about you all. And now I am pleased to invite Professor Benyam Mezmur, who is from Ethiopia and is a member of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child and of its working group on child rights and the environment. Professor Benyam will tell us a little bit more about the committee's work with the General Comment 26 and how civil society can also support. Professor Benyam, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I see that the turnout is absolutely great, and thank you for doing this. My good friend and former colleague, Mikiko Otani, is also here. The general comment is something that actually contains a lot of her fingerprints, and I think it's important to give the due credit that she has actually contributed while she was still a chairperson and member of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. Now, my role is to say a few words about the general comment and how we're actually using it as the committee. But let me take the conversation a few years back before the general comment was even proposed. In 2016, we had a day of general discussion on children's rights and the environment. We had very useful inputs from children. The committee was really mobilized. We actually felt that this was the next chapter that we want to spend a bit of intellectual investment on to make sure that we discharge our role as the monitoring body for the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So even though the committee has done some work before 2016 was a turning point. Fast forward a few years, the climate crisis has increasingly become a children's rights crisis. It was inevitable for the committee to actually engage on this subject matter on a very concrete way. We received an individual communication in between. Some of you might know the Sachi case. That also, of course, has led to some significant contribution in terms of our thinking as a committee, as a working group, in our engagement with the different stakeholders, particularly civil society organizations and UN agencies, and obviously states are the obvious one. So that was some of the context that needs to be taken into account. Now, the general comment actually does significant improvement in the work that we do as the Committee on the Rights of the Child. As you know, what it contains is obviously publicly available. It actually, some of the main things that it does, first of all, it tries to bring in a child rights-based approach to environmental protection. There is often, this is something that I should also mention at the outset. The General Comment's title is General Comment number 26 on children's rights and the environment, with a special focus on climate change. It's not just only a general comment on climate change. It's actually a general comment on children's rights and the environment, but a bit of focus on climate change. If I were to take the participants here to the back conversations that we had, we didn't feel we would have the word count, enough space to cover all the issues. And obviously the climate crisis is the priority that we wanted to give. But I want to say at the outset that this general comment is actually on children's rights and the environment, with a lot of focus on climate change. So the child rights-based approach to environmental protection is not just only general environment conversation, but it's actually on climate change. One of the interesting things that we also realized as we were busy working on the document is that we felt as a committee, this was an opportunity to sort of bridge the gap between human rights law on the one hand and international environmental law on the other. It's not a subject matter that we engage with on a regular basis as the Committee on the Rights of the Child, but this was a welcome opportunity to actually do so, to go beyond the human rights space and look at international environmental law and see how we can actually bridge the gap to push the boundaries for the realization of children's rights in the context of the environment. One specific thing that we're very proud of, that we spent some time on, we looked at the conversations around intergenerational equity and future generations, and what that actually means for this general committee and the work that we do as a committee, and we provided some guidance in that regard. Let me mention one related thing. I'm currently connecting with you from Addis Ababa at the Africa Climate Summit. And this morning in one of the sessions, one of the delegates actually said that two of the things that we have in short supply in the climate change conversation are actually time and resources. And the general comment places close emphasis to this aspect. It places emphasis on the question of time, because one thing that children do not have is time. And one thing that we really do not have much in abundance in the conversation in the context of climate change is actually time. There is a sense of urgency, and this conversation around intergenerational equity and future generations and so forth should be able to take into account the sense of urgency that we actually have, and we've tried to inculcate that in the general comment as issued. If you see the structure of the general comment, after providing some of these overarching considerations that I just mentioned now, it provides the objectives. We wanted to provide an authoritative guidance to states in terms of how they should draft legislation, how they actually should lead the process, how they engage children and other stakeholders in that process, how they should actually take into account the impact of not just only legislation, but also policies, but also programs that would have significant implications on children's rights. And when you get to the section of the general comment that deals with specific rights, we, for example, deal in some detail with the relationship between climate change, the environment, and the best interest of the child, the implication of discrimination. There is often this tendency to say that disasters are the greatest equalizers, and climate change is a disastrous occurrence. But that's not always the case. Disasters also discriminate. What is its implication for girls? What is its implication for children with disabilities? What is its implication for indigenous communities? These are some of the points that we actually spent quite a bit of time debating, but also including in the general comment. So non-discrimination is absolutely important. The right to life, survival, and development is absolutely critical. Not just only the instances where children drown in floodings and so forth, and they lose their lives, but its implications about their survivals, their development, about denying them the opportunity to give life the best shot that they can actually give it is often undermined as a result of the negative impacts of climate change. The right to be heard remains to be very critical. We have seen how, even now here in the Africa Climate Summit, we have seen how national adaptation plans, national mitigation plans, how they ignore children significantly. How, when they include children, which we welcome as a committee, they include them as just beneficiaries, not active role players. And in fact, one of the lessons that the human rights sector, one of the lessons that the children's rights sector has learned and needs to continue to learn is the activism that is played by children and the important role of the right to be heard. That is something that we've spent a bit of time trying to inculcate, but that is also related to freedom of expression, freedom of association, peaceful assembly, and so forth. In the general comment, you see that we have identified a number of stakeholders when we talk about mitigation and adaptation that need to be part and parcel of the process, but should also be held accountable. The general comment does not ignore the important role of climate justice. It does not ignore the important role of accountability. The priority for accountability starts with states, but that accountability is not just only within their jurisdiction, but extra in the instances where there are effects, negative impacts of climate change in neighboring countries, in other spaces. And it's not just only within the jurisdiction, within the national territory, but it actually has the opportunity to go beyond those national territories. We also provide some guidance in terms of the accountability of the business sector. We provide a bit more detail about the important role that international cooperation and partnership plays in this regard. We are currently standing in the year 2025. The end of the Sustainable Development Goals is just around the corner. The impact of climate change in terms of how it undermines a number of provisions of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, how it undermines a number of the goals within the Sustainable Development Goals is something that we kept at the back of our mind as we continue to engage and draft this general comment. In fact, it's not just only a product of the committee and the committee members, it's a product of thousands of children that actually gave input. Hundreds of civil society organizations and UN agencies that actually mobilized to make sure that we can get the best document in the form of the general comment. As a committee on the rights of the child, as I often say, it's not something that was the right time. It was an issue which was long overdue in coming. As we continue to monitor the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, as the Committee on the Rights of the Child, now we make consistent reference to the general comment. Civil society organizations are engaged on it when they submit alternative reports. They use it. States, more importantly, are engaged on it, and we keep on referring them in that direction to make sure that in their mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, and even further other negotiations that they actually undertake, they take into account the general comment so that we continue to create a world that is fit for children. So these are my 10 minutes. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And thank you very much for the organizers for doing this and for trying to help us to make sure that the general comment is not just something that is owned by the committee and that we engage in the very nice air-conditioned rooms in Geneva, but it's actually getting a reach at the grassroots levels where it matters the most. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Benyam, for your insightful sharing and thoughts. Thank you for highlighting this active role of children that children should have. The intersectionality between everything related to the General Comment 26, and of course this broader perspective of the General Comment, because it is about the environment with a special focus on climate change. So thank you very much. And now, as you know, civil society and children worked jointly during the past year to develop guidance and tools to help us understand General Comment 26 and suggest ways we can all contribute to its implementation. So now we'll listen to Constanza Martinez, consultant working with Save the Children and co-author of the guidance for civil society organizations on how to support implementation of General Comment 26 guidance. Over to you, Connie.
Thank you. Obrigada, Letícia. Buenos días, buenas tardes, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, bonjour. I'm really delighted to be here and very inspired with my previous speakers, Mikiko and Benyam, who were at the core of the developing the General Comment, which actually took me some time back when we worked together with the Child Rights Connect working group on child rights and environment to comment on the draft. So I am witness of how inclusive the process was for civil society and children. And I'm also very honored to have worked closely with Laura Bado and Francis Sheehan in developing this guidance, which is whose aim is precisely to take out the General Comment from the air conditioning in Geneva and bring it to local, national level where it matters. So if we go to the next slide, just to show again how inclusive this process was, following the methodology of how to child rights as described by Mikiko, which is very inclusive, very rigorous. Creating a space where we actually benefit each other from the richness of the knowledge of all the different partners in the community. We've got 200 inputs more or less, and now you can see here around 70 logos who owned this guidance, as well as the General Comment, as Benyam says so. Yes, next slide, please. So this guidance, not the General Comment, the guidance actually has like three main legs. First is one part explaining what the guidance is and how to use it. It's not a book. You can pick and choose the elements that are useful for you. Then there is a chapter on the explanation what the General Comment is, and then the main part where we have 6 chapters that are different aspects to take into account when actually bring to life the GC26 at the national level. If we go to the next slide, we see that the main, we also have some annexes to help understand, for example, how the 2 bodies of law grew parallel, and now we're bridging them. We're cross-breeding human rights and environment, and hopefully we will penetrate other sectors like sustainable development and so on. We have a bit of an annex just giving you an appetizer of what the GC26 says. Annex 3 is like giving you like green glasses to reread the articles of the CRC, as they have to be interpreted differently now that we have the GC26. Then we have a calendar to inspire you for some advocacy, acronyms, and list of definitions. And then in the first part, like I said, there are 3 parts. The first part tells you a little bit how to use it, and also reminds that this guidance is for civil society organizations, and of course that means that it will be relevant for other stakeholders, first of all children, but also government, some agents of governments, business, and it will also be relevant at different scale, at the local level, at the national level, regional and international. So it is mainly for civil society, but of course it will trickle into different stakeholders. So next slide. So as I mentioned, the first part has basic information on GC26 that can be used by civil society to make the GC26 known, and to remind that this is a very important document that says that the child right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is one of the rights that are included now explicitly in the CRC, and explains other important things on why it is important and how it bridges the human rights and environment communities, including others, of course. In the next slide, we have a very nice snapshot of the 6 pieces. It was very hard to group these elements into 6 groups because everything is obviously interrelated, and we tried to follow a very logical order and have in each chapter what we call the entry points, which is what does the GC say on this aspect, then some practical actions to inspire you on what concrete things we can do to keep the GC alive and start implementing it. And then we have some examples that were provided by some of you that, you know, here in this webinar, some of you gave great examples to enrich this guidance, and also resources also provided by many already experimenting with the implementation of the GC. So the first chapter is to raise awareness of the GC26, so it doesn't stay in Geneva or only in CSOs working on child rights and environment, but everybody, different aspects of the actors of the society need to know about it. The second is about how we strengthen the capacity of governments, providing them with skills and knowledge that will be useful for them as the major duty bearers, the major implementers of the GC. The third chapter is on children participation. Fourth, advocacy. How do we push governments to actually implement and mainstream? We'll talk about it a bit more in detail later. Then chapter 5 on business, what are their responsibilities? And the 6 is on accountability. Basically, it's a little bit harder when advocacy and trying to influence doesn't work. Take other more structured mechanisms to push governments to take action. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see different ways of raising awareness and also the different audiences targeting, first of all, the government and public official, business, other CSOs that don't know about the GC26 and they should know, working on education, health, media, which is very important to reach out the general public, academia, communities, parents, teachers, judges, policemen. So basically to properly implement this GC26, all different sectors need to know about its existence and the obligations, and then clearly explaining why is it important, the interaction between environmental degradation and child rights, which is beautifully laid out in GC26. So if we go to the next slide, we will see that here is where we talk about how the CSOs can support governments as partners in raising capacity through workshops and consultations. And some of the areas that are shown here are also shown in the 4th chapter that I will talk about later, because this is what implementation consists of. So if we go to the next slide, and also noting that the capacity building is a way of advocating, so it's important to take action. I think you skipped the 3rd one. Can I see what it was? This is child participation. I do want to stop here because both members of the committee this morning and today, Benyam, have made a lot of emphasis on this, and there is a lot of work to be done on this issue, as some of you might encounter colleagues who really don't appreciate the importance of child participation and what it entails in real action for implementation. So a lot to be done there. So, and then we go to the 4th, to the 4th chapter, where it does get into more the nitty-gritties of implementation. And here you see that the first 2 subsections that are on collection of data and child rights impact assessment is what I call the homework that needs to be done, the basic work that can then inform what laws we should adopt, how they should look like, and how to address at the local level, at the national level. It also informs us on how to mainstream the GC26 into the different processes at the global level, And here, the importance of the SDGs already mentioned by Benyam, but many other processes, including the Aarhus and Escazú conventions that are basically about environmental democracy. And I know some of you will hear some of you talking about the process of the climate negotiations and Aarhus and so on. So looking forward to hearing concrete examples, and then obviously improving the resources available to actually truly and meaningfully implement the GC26. And in the chapter 5, if we go to the next slide, specifically looks at business and how business play a role also in the implementation on the GC, and how the relationship between state and business is very important, and the state has at a minimum responsibilities to ensure that there is a proper legislation to oblige business to undertake operations and activities that do not harm the environment, to ask them to conduct environmental impact assessment, and to take child rights due diligence procedures at a minimum, and then enforcement for business to be in compliance with these requirements. And obviously the role of civil society here is absolutely essential, and I think that colleagues in the call from Côte d'Ivoire will also illustrate how they proceeded with this. And then the sixth and last chapter is very much related to how do we push governments, how do we review, we use mechanisms to plan together, like social accountability approaches, which is a more inclusive mechanism to plan together, monitoring together, to move into reporting mechanisms that some of you know very well in the human rights processes at the global and regional level, but also within the multilateral environmental agreements and so on. And then finally, when everything else doesn't work, moving into litigation, as it was illustrated by a German colleague in the webinar this morning, which I recommend you view. So I think Benyam and Mikiko made reference of the multi-sectoral approach and complexity of the GC26. So this guidance has so many pages, but it doesn't do a complete job in terms of really diving into some specific issues that deserve more dissecting. So with the collaboration with Terre des Hommes, colleagues from Terre des Hommes, and our colleague Jonas and Flavia, they're taking the lead in diving into some of the issues that deserve more looking into. And we call these explainers, which go more, as I said, into the nitty-gritties of what it means implementing in terms of these aspects. So the themes included are the right to a healthy environment, access to justice, business accountability, child participation, and right to education. So hopefully these explainers will be also out soon to help you in the areas of work. And we will very much welcome the inclusiveness that we had in the development of the guidance. So keep in touch, and you see the email addresses of our colleagues here so that you can reach out and we can collaborate in this important endeavor. Thank you very much. Over to you, Letícia.
Thank you very much, Connie, for sharing with us. I truly believe this guidance will help us a lot to be very useful in our work, in our advocacy at national, regional, and global levels. And now I am pleased to invite Dulce, a member of the Child Rights Connect Children's Advisory Team, to present the tools they developed about the General Comment 26. And I need to mention that Dulce will speak in Spanish. Then if you need to change your preferred language, please do it now. And Dulce, please, over to you. I think we're not being able to hear you. Now, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Dulce Maria. I am 15 years old and I'm come from Ecuador. And today is a great pleasure for me to present to you the school kit we have been working on together with the Children's Advisory Team. This is a school kit on the environmental rights of children and teenagers and their relationship to climate change. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Children's Advisory Team we have been working on these projects with.
This is a team made up of boys, girls, and teenagers who represent the voices of people below the age of 18 years within an organization or institution. In this case, we're talking about Child Rights Connect. So we are here looking at decision-making when it comes to proposing ideas and sharing opinions from diverse perspectives. Because we are, as I mentioned, boys, girls, and teenagers from different parts of the world. And so amongst the projects that we have developed, we have quite a broad vision when it comes to our respective realities. It's very important that we, of course, participate in processes that have an impact on boys, girls, and teenagers, ensuring that our voices and opinions be heard and respected. The members of the Child's Advisory Team, as I mentioned, are made up of members from 10 to 18 years of age. We have been chosen to be part of the team via open calls for application. We have adult facilitators who are members of Child Rights Connect, and they support the process and also guarantee that we respect the rights of boys, girls, and teenagers. We also have diverse representatives, for example, members who come from different backgrounds and countries. We have members and representatives from schools, as well as children's associations, as well as international organizations. And this has been taken into account as we conduct our diverse projects. Why did we decide to work on GC26? First off, we can see that climate change is a visible and important issue for all boys, girls, and adolescents. This also creates issues when it comes to respecting and fulfilling their rights. So we must fight against climate change. So this is what really pushed us to work on this school kit. We have also seen that boys, girls, and teenagers need this dynamic and resourceful school kit to educate other boys, girls, teenagers, young people, and adults about climate change and its impact. GC26 itself provides us with a more reflexive vision of environmental awareness. It is an innovative document, and it exists so that young people, children, and teenagers have an understanding of how climate change impacts our rights. Because we are seeing that climate change is, of course, having an impact around the world and with regards to different children's rights, especially when it comes to the right to education. The school kit includes 3 documents or 3 parts. First, we have a presentation that we will be able to take a look at on the following slide. So we there have a list of contents. We have the presentation of the theoretical aspects, which provides a foundation to understand climate change. Next slide, please.
This presentation speaks about the theoretical part, and we have as a starting point climate change. What are the main causes of climate change, and especially the effects of climate change on our daily lives? We especially would like to highlight the fact that the rights of children and teenagers, we have the right to living in a healthy and clean environment according to the Sustainable Development Goal 26. And there are things that we need to look at, which are what is it that we can do in the face of climate change, not only about what is happening, but also we should be promoting children and teenagers to provide solutions from their own perspectives as well. The second part of this school kit is the activities guideline. This provides us a different set of instructions. So if children didn't understand, for instance, if the presentation was not that clear, they can look at this activity guide. This explains climate change and its impact on the rights of children and teenagers through different interactive activities. And this includes suggestions of these practical activities, which can be done by anyone from any age. And this helps us to work for the work groups, which are for different age groups. The first one is from ages 7 to 12, and the second one is from the ages of 13 to 17. And this is available in English, French, and Spanish. Next slide, please. Here we have the covers of those workbooks, where we have the general information about how this can be used. And in the following slide, we will have a table, a comparative table with the contents of both kits. Next slide, please. This is a comparative table where we can see the contents of both workbooks. The first one, which is for the age group 7 to 12, this workbook focuses on more fun activities and creative activities with intention of children to be able to understand what is happening with climate change and how this is affecting them. This workbook has drawings on the future, the climate future, has activities such as the design of an ecological house and the different commitments, climate commitments they can write down at home. And it also has games about recycling and waste. The next workbook, which is for teenagers, this is more focused around reflections and more profound proposals. We have activities such as writing articles and letters about the climate future and about how they can provide solutions to these local challenges. This workbook also has an activity which is to create a plan, a personal action plan. As I said, this is more profound, more reflexive, and we also have commitments and environmental campaigns to promote children and teenagers to not only disseminate information from this workbook, but they can also do this at home. On this slide, we had a guide for how we can use this school kit. Let's please go to the last slide. Thanks. Okay, how can we use the school kit? First, I would like to say that since this is very compact and it's very concise, it's very easy to be used in the classroom with the help of the teachers, because it doesn't really need a very complex explanation. It can be used with different groups of children and teenagers, especially in events organized with the communities. It's also important to be able to translate and share this school kit so that the children can learn about it. This school kit is available only in 3 languages, but for instance, if a child or an adolescent would like this school kit to be translated into their own language, the idea is to be able to do that so that they can disseminate it. This is a way for children to participate actively in the implementation and design of these activities, because children and teenagers are the ones who will be providing their acceptance of this school kit. The objective of the goal of this school kit is to empower children and teenagers so that they can create a significant change in their community and region. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Dulce. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your participation. Your participation here is very, very important. And I do know that these tools will certainly be useful for children around the world, but also for us here, for all stakeholders. So now, before we go to the next part of the webinar, I would like to remind participants that if you have questions for speakers, please type them in the Q&A box, specifying who the question is addressed to if you want, and we will respond them in writing or orally at the end of the webinar. And now we will open the floor to participants to share some experiences. We have some guiding questions here for you, but feel free to share the way you are most comfortable. So some guiding questions that we have is how can the guidance be useful to your work? Describe the work you have done or wish to do in relation to the General Comment 26. Or, of course, give a word of advice for to peers listening today. And to get started and get some inspiration, I will invite some of you who accepted to share some reflections. So we'll start with Loukou, Djati, Aimé from FEREADD, from Ivory Coast. Over to you, please, Loukou.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for organizing this session on the protection of children's rights and their right to a healthy environment. First of all, it's important to say that we have led different initiatives in which we have taken into account children's rights. And we've done many activities to strengthen capacities of the different CSOs. And to adopt new policies regarding healthy environments for children. And we've seen that there was a few information regarding the climate change and its impact on children. So we invited the government, the civil society, communities, and children. And we've led different awareness campaigns on the subjects and the children's rights. And this was done in order to protect the children's rights. Next slide, please. So we are a technical partner, and we didn't have the capacity enough capacities. So we have benefited from different sessions to strengthen our capacities from given by Save the Children.
We had some advocacy sessions to enable child participation. We also developed some exhibitions in order to talk about the GC26. As well, we were talking about strategic documents that had to do with environment, specific contributions at a national level. In different articles, there are dispositions in terms of children's rights and their contributions. We've been trying to multiply these actions through workshops, screenings on new dispositions, new laws in terms of children's rights. We had also the support of the National Environmental Agency. We also developed training material regarding the JC 26 that have been used to train CSOs so that they can understand all the strategies and all the content of this comment. We also wanted to support child participation during COP 29. So we created a working group for this. We adapted materials to make it child-friendly in order to be able to talk to children and facilitate understanding. Next. Previous one, please. In terms of CSOs, they developed a self-evaluation tool which wanted to identify weaknesses in terms of integration in topics related to environment. The idea was to allow them to talk about environmental issues and climate change combined with children's rights. The idea was also to develop a child-friendly tool with the same purpose. There were different CSOs that we worked with in order to influence decision-making and include children. We started some consultations with children in order to include their contributions. We started some advocacy processes with children. And in the implementation of GC26, we had some consultations with a big group of children in order to verify or to evaluate the impacts of climate change in terms of pollution and other impacts, and also to define actions. This in line with the environmental code of our country. We presented all the results of these consultations to a direction of climate change management and climate transition. Next slide. Here we had a training with children. And there you have the material we used on the left. This was the content was related to climate change and children's rights. We developed initiatives for child participation. For example, during the International Day of the Environment. So here in the pictures, you see how children were participating in a panel discussion. You also can see in the pictures working sessions with the children. So the children had the opportunity to propose solutions that would be presented to authorities. So all of these actions are part of an initiative of a comprehensive transformation. Why we want to include children's participation in all of these initiatives. We want to include them in political decision-making that has to do with the environment. All these initiatives were possible thanks to the financing of Save the Children. And we had the support of many other initiatives and programs that made this all possible. We also had a very important tool for CSOs, and which had information obviously about the GC26 and how to include children in this whole process. It is possible to influence policymaking through these actions and these initiatives of advocacy. We have some good news. The advocacy process with the Environment Ministry and other authorities in terms of participation and consultation and children participation at the national level was pretty successful. We transmitted a draft which was taken into account. So we'll continue those advocacy actions throughout the rest of the year. In terms of next steps, we need to start implementation of different actions, reinforcing coalitions, more advocacy processes. We'll also organize another exhibition. And we'll have state actors implicated in our initiatives. The idea is to have obviously more participation of children and the involvement of society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aimé. It was really, really nice, really important to get to know a little bit more about your important initiatives. And because we are almost running out of time, I would like to pass the floor to Julia Gouveia from Plan International Brazil, representing the Children and Climate Coalition from Brazil, also for share some experiences. Julia, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, good morning, everyone. It's morning here in Brazil. It's an honor to be here today representing CLICA, the Coalition for Climate, Children, and Adolescents here in Brazil. I'm Julia Gouveia. I'm a climate change and emergency specialist at Plan Brasil, one of the co-founders of organizations of CLICA. So first of all, I would like to introduce CLICA to you all. CLICA is a civil society coalition that it's dedicated to defending the right of children and adolescents, both present and future generations, to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. It brings together organizations working collectively to address the negative effects that climate change triggers in the lives of children here in Brazil. And it emerged from the engagement of these organizations within the National Early Childhood Network called RNPI. So over the past years, CLICA has consolidated itself as one of the references in the defense of children's rights in the face of the climate crisis. So when the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child announced the preparation of the General Comment number 26, CLICA immediately mobilized to contribute. So this is a part of a participatory process that help us to ensure that the final text of the comment number 26 reflected the realities of children in the global south. So for us, the general comment number 26 is not just a legal document. It could be seen as a roadmap for action, and also because it affirms that children have the right to a clean and healthy and sustainable environment, that the states have the responsibilities beyond their borders. And of course, that children must be meaningfully included in environmental decision making. So since its adoptions and the releasement of the comment, CLICA has worked to turn the principles of the comment 26 into concrete practices. So first of all, I would like to highlight the policy influencing that CLICA has been made over this past years. We contributed to the Brazilian government participatory climate plan, the national main directors to the policy to climate change development. So we proposed the creation of the national program for the protection of children from climate impacts, including education, adaptation, and emergency protocols. So after the devastating floods and heat waves that reached in Brazil last year, we advocate for this intersectoral protocol. So uniting health, education, social protection that center the specific needs of children and adolescents during the disaster context. So another front that CLICA has been acting is the representation in decision-making spaces. CLICA has been named by Marina Silva, the Ministry of Environment of the federal government here in Brazil. And CLICA has secured a seat at the National Environmental Council called CONAMA. It's represented by two institutions that participate at CLICA, Instituto Alana and Instituto Árvores Vivas. And that seat, it's very important to us to ensure that children's rights are considered in environmental regulations. Another part of our work involves also the municipal elections that happened last year here in Brazil. And one of the ways that we engage in this activity was launching a recommendation letter that could be used as influencing actions with these municipal elections candidates. So we engage young people to formulate and capture the perceptions to develop this recommendation for these candidates so that local governments integrate climate justice and intergenerational perspective into their plans when we're talking about politics, public politics development. Also, another perspective of CLIC activities and also the implementation of the Comment 26 requires this work of translating commitments into real change in the territories where children live. So, of course, here in Brazil, it involves listening and capturing the perception of quilombolas community, indigenous communities, children that lives in favelas in rural areas, those who are disproportionately affected by floods, drought, air pollutions, and food security. And this is important to have this close analysis of how to implement this comment, because we must assure, of course, to integrate in this process the equality, the diversity that, of course, draws the whole territory of Brazil itself. So to conclude, of course, I would like to highlight that our perspective is that children are right holders, and as a coalition, we are very committed to continue this journey defending their rights, bringing, of course, their voices of children and also adolescents from all over Brazil into this global process. In Brazil, this is a special year for us because we are receiving this is important event called COP30. And of course, it's another important space that we can use as an influencing advocacy, knowledge sharing, and governance space that we can use to ensure that the voices of this public here in Brazil can be listening, and also to be fully integrated in the national plans, local plans, and other important documents and plans that surge from COP30. So it's a little bit of what we do in CLICA. Of course, I will be happy to share some documents that we released and launched last year. We also have last year the G20, and we have a specially occasion that we receive the social G20 here in Brazil at Rio de Janeiro, and was another opportunity of an international space that we can link to local actions, to national efforts to make this agenda of children and adolescents protections of rights to a safe environment could be part of the discussions. So that's one of the broader visions that I would like to share with you all, and to emphasize that the comment number 26 becomes a living instrument once we shapes these spaces, public policies, and of course combines that with strengthening protection systems and inspiring action for climate justice everywhere. So once again, I would like to thank you, Instituto Alana, for the invitation to this space, and everyone who's here. Was such a nice moment to understand how many other initiatives are working together to implement this important document and reference to us all. So thank you so much.
Muito obrigada, Julia, for sharing with us. And as part of Alana, as part of the CLICA, we are very proud to contribute with the work you have been doing. So thank you again. And now, last but not least, I would like to call Isabelle Kolebinov from CRIN, who is going to share with us a little bit more about their work also. Isabelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Letícia. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to share a little bit about how at CRIN, the Child Rights International Network, we've been using General Comment 26 in our work. So Child Rights International Network, is an international policy and advocacy organization. And within this work, we focus a lot on the environmental issues. So for us, General Comment 26 is more than just a legal text. It's really an inspiration, a call for action, as mentioned previously. It affirms that what many of us in the children's rights community and environmental justice spaces have long believed, that children are not only passive victims of environmental harm, but active right holders and powerful agents of change. So General Comment 26 and the guidance launched today are full of examples, references, and practical actions that civil society can take to ensure children's rights are upheld in environmental matters. At CRIN, we've been using it a lot in research, in publications, but also in building our advocacy messages and policy recommendations. It's been really inspiring to hear from others today and this morning as well in the other webinar. And I'd like now to give you some concrete examples of how, as CRIN, we've been using it as well in our work. So I'd like to focus on shaping how we've been using it to shape our advocacy messages across various international environmental spaces. So, for instance, as it's mentioned in the guidance itself, we've used it many times since the publication of General Comment 26 to make submissions to special rapporteurs to the UN, so on environmental related topic, referencing the General Comment itself to support the thematic work of special rapporteur on the environment, on climate change, but also on toxic chemicals, just to give a few examples. We've used also the language contained in General Comment in our advocacy to include children's rights in environmental decision-making processes. So I can mention here the UNFCCC, the UN Framework on Climate Change, that was just mentioned also by our friend in Brazil, and where, for example, General Comment was mentioned and referenced as a legal basis to justify children's participation in those conferences at an expert dialogue that happened in the subsidiary body, so the pre-COP event conference that happens every year in Bonn. And so this event happened in 2024, and we've been using General Comment in that context. Another example that I would like to share is with the Aarhus Convention. So for those who are less familiar with this convention, the Aarhus Convention is a key environmental international treaty that protects people's access to information, to public participation and justice in environmental matters. And while the convention itself doesn't specifically mention children, the General Comment 26 has provided the interpretive bridge to show how each of those pillars, so access to information, public participation, and access to justice, are directly relevant to children's rights. And so since 2023, together with other organizations, part of the Children's Rights, Child Rights Connect working group on children's rights and the environment, CRIN has been working to advocate for the explicit inclusion of children's rights within the Aarhus framework. We've seen growing recognition of children's environmental rights in those key meetings and key recommendations coming out of the meetings, which is a very important step forward for environmental democracy that includes all generations. And will be part of the coming meeting of the parties of the Aarhus Convention, which will take place in Geneva in November this year. Another example that I'd like to mention, looking ahead, is the upcoming UNIA, so that's the UN Environmental Assembly that will happen in December in Kenya. So in our first participation at UNIA 6, which was in 2024, we already used general comment, and general comment at the time had just been published. So it helped us initiate engagement of children themselves to use the general comment. And this year, step forward, there is a potential for a resolution to be put forward for adoption by the UNIA 7 on the theme of enhancing children and youth participation in climate and environmental action. And so this would be, I mean, if this goes forward, we will hopefully see General Comment 26 again be a great tool to influence the language of this specific resolution. Finally, I wanted to very briefly to share also about the work that our group of climate advisors, so that's a group of under 18 who are all climate activists, who are working currently on reaching out to their own government to influence their respective nationally determined contributions, so NDCs, in the context of the upcoming COP, to ask for more ambitious and more children's rights respective NDCs. So using General Comment 26 as well as a guide of how children's rights are considered in national climate policies. So to end, if I have any advice, because I think it was one of the questions for us to share for the audience today, I think it's General Comment is really an inspiration tool to use and to use the guidance to see how you can use it in your own work. At CRIN, we've been really encouraged by seeing how it's been largely used by others, partner organizations in the environmental space. And I think it's great this is really a shared momentum that reminds us that while environmental crisis is that we face is really urgent and global, I think so too is our collective power to to respond to this crisis and to especially looking at children's rights in this context. So I will leave you with that. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share our own experience using General Comment 26. Thank you, Letícia. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. Thank you all also. It was very nice, very important to understand how this document is being used since the national level until the international level. And as just mentioned here on the chat by Benyam, at the regional level, just one word I would like to bring. As you may know, the advisory opinion of the Inter-American Court, International Court here in Inter-American System also mentioned the General Comment 26. So this is a living instrument, as you all mentioned. And now, because we are running out of time, we were supposed to open now the floor to you so you can ask your question or share your experiences, but unfortunately we won't have time for that. But I would like to pass the floor to Akur, because I'm seeing his hand raised, and I believe he's gonna bring something related to one question that was made here related to the business accountability. So Akur, over to you very quickly, please.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. I just wanted to point out something. Through the GC 26, can we engage companies towards better children's rights? And in this GC26, we have a specific part that talks about the impact of companies on the environment and how this has also an impact on children. So, and there's also another part that talks about the incidence of the companies' activities on the environment. So I wanted to invite you to read this document. And in the guide, we have many other countries' experience regarding climate change and environment, and all this linked to children's rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Loukou. Thank you very much for sharing. And now the time is over, but I really would like to thank you all for being here with us today. We will be sharing the recording and also the materials of the session, all the slides and etc. And please, if you find them useful, do share and disseminate among your colleagues and partners, your own networks. A downloadable PowerPoint presentation of the guidance of the General Comment 26 will soon be available, and we hope you'll find it useful also. You can also find the useful guidance and case studies on How to Child Rights Series webpage. And please don't hesitate to get in touch to contribute with additional resources. So that's it for today. Thank you very much and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Letícia. Thank you all for joining and for the contributions. Merci à tous et à toutes. Muchas gracias. Obrigada.
Merci, merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir.